A decade ago, Mossab Hassan Youssef, the son of a top Hamas founder and leader, wrote a book about becoming an informant for Israel. He is now speaking out against the terrorist group and its supporters in a new interview with activist Mandana Dayani that she published on her Instagram page. Take a look.
What I see today, that we're not far from World War III. Very similar events are happening. Holocaust is not only measured by the numbers of the people who died. It's how it's done and why it's done. What motivates a Holocaust. And that's a similarity. And when the world stayed silent in the face of the Nazis as they saw it on the rise, they started as a point of view, which is very similar to the anti-Semite or anti-Semitic movement. Today, we have the same silence. We are not making ourselves very clear that anti-Semitism and all this movement justifying the slaughter of the Jewish people, if we fail this time, again, it would be our second time, and it would be another world war. This is my prophecy.
And Mandana joins us now. She is co-founder of the group I Am a Voter. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. Really striking words there. Tell us a little bit about how this came to be. Tell us a little bit more about this individual we just heard from and why he's talking now.
Yeah, thank you for having me. You know, I think obviously he was born as the son of one of the co-founders of Hamas, and it's one of its current leaders. And, you know, he knows this organization inside out. And after serving some time in prison with them, saw their brutality against their own, against Palestinians, against other members of Hamas, and ultimately defected to try and prevent further violence, to try to prevent suicide bombings. And I think that there is this overwhelming sense of he knows what's coming. He knows what this organization wants to do. And I feel like he feels like he's screaming at the top of his lungs to try to warn the world, and they're not taking him seriously. And I was so moved by his courage. I was so moved by his determination to hope for something better and to fight for something better. You know, to hear him unequivocally denounce anti-Semitism, yeah, I was very, very moved. And we had a very long and very frank conversation about the goals of Hamas, what will happen, you know, if there was a ceasefire, what would happen if there isn't, when they will stop, you know, his feelings about all the propaganda. And yeah, it was very, very moving.
Well, let's play a little bit more of what he had to say, in particular, what Mossab told you about what he thinks would happen if there indeed were to be a ceasefire now.
A premature ceasefire is a problem, and it will not lead to peace. In my opinion, it will lead to more violence. Why? The voices, first of all, you know, calling for ceasefire, they are in denial. They simply just don't want bloodshed. They want the problem to finish now. Just like somebody sweeping the dirt under the rug, you know, that they don't want to face reality and get the job done correctly according existence.
Yeah.
Escapists. And by the way, Hamas is counting on this majority of emotional people. Do you think Hamas did not understand this? Hamas orchestrated this entire thing based on the sensitivity of the free world and how vulnerable we are when it comes to the human life, because we praise life, but Hamas doesn't care. True peacemakers are the ones carrying the guns now in Gaza Strip, confronting this barbaric enemy. Those are the ones who actually fighting for peace. Because at this moment, a ceasefire is cowardice. It's not bravery. And it's escaping responsibility.
So Mandana, he doesn't mince words when he speaks about the brutality of what Hamas stands for, what it has done. My question for you is, was the level of atrocities, the horrors that we heard occurred on October 7th? Was he surprised at all at just how terrible they were? And then secondly, to speak to us about, is he putting himself at risk by speaking out like this?
I think that he believes in the importance of truth right now, especially in the context of all the misinformation that we're seeing online, knowing how much money Iran and Russia and these other proxies are putting into sowing division amongst people and on TikTok and across all the social platforms, spreading propaganda, trying to indoctrinate and radicalize people against Israel. I mean, Hamas is not mincing words. They're very, very clear that their intent is to annihilate Israel and the Jewish people, to build an Islamic state on top of the rubble of the ruins, and then to go after all Western values and not stop. So, I mean, again, I think and that in context of the ceasefire question, right, is this idea that, like, of course, everybody wants, other than Hamas, for there to be less death and less suffering. But Hamas has expressed no political agenda. They've not said they've provided no assurances that they will release the hostages, that they will comply with the ceasefire. There was a ceasefire before October 7th. They violated it. And again, I think when he went into detail about all of the work they've done to build tunnels, that they want more death in Gaza because it garners more sympathy for their mission and allows them to continue to arm themselves. I mean, this is corruption, and this is horrible, horrible evil of people that are using, human shields and every single terrorist tactic to conduct this ideological war. And again, seeing that, in contrast and against this backdrop of the rise of Jewish hatred around the world, that is not accidental. This is exactly what they wanted.
Mandanya Dayani, thank you so very much. You can watch more of her interview with Mossab Hassan Youssef on her Instagram page. We'll be right back with more Morning Joe.